is a very interesting topic. It's on the Paycheck Protection Program. So some of you guys have probably seen notifications linked to your social media pages. You've probably had people tell you something about it if you are a small business owner. This program is going to be so important, and I cannot stress enough taking the opportunity that you may have through this program to be able to meet payroll costs that you need to meet to keep your business in operation. And this is only going to be available for a very short and narrow window, and it's only going to be available for a certain time frame or until certain funds remain in place from the Small Business Administration. So let's dive into this program today. My name is Sabani DeBarros. If you don't already know me, I own and manage the S.L. DeBarros Law Firm. I practice in the areas of business, employment, sports, and entertainment, and I'm also licensed in Illinois State, the Northern District Federal Court, as well as Wisconsin State. I do have to provide a disclaimer and let you know that this program contains the opinions and my own personal legal advice based on my particular training and background, but nothing in this webinar should be construed as giving you personalized legal advice or creating an attorney-client relationship. So what is the Paycheck Protection Program? So you all have seen the CARES Act, which is the bill that was enacted to provide people with emergency funds or emergency loans for disasters that are causing an abruption to their businesses. There are also different things in that CARES Act that are giving individuals forms of benefits to help them, especially employees who are, can't afford to go to work because maybe either they're sick or they have a child that they have to watch whose school is closed or what have you. So part of this CARES Act program has a provision authorizing the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, temporarily allowing them to temporarily guarantee loans under 7A. And this is called the Paycheck Protection Program, which is why we're here today. So loans that are guaranteed under this Paycheck Protection Program are going to be 100% guaranteed by the SBA. Now, the importance of this loan is different from the EIDL, which is the Economic Income Disaster Loan. Those loans, based on the information that I've received and reading, I don't think those loans may be forgiven. The Paycheck Protection Program actually may be forgiven. Okay, and we're going to get into that, how much has to be spent on payroll costs in order for that loan to be forgiven and what have you. But I want you to stay with me for a second. So under this Paycheck Protection Program, individuals are having a hard time meeting their payroll costs, paying their employees so they can ensure that their business continues to flow and operate in a manner where they're not picking up the pieces or falling through the cracks post-COVID-19. All right. So who's eligible to apply for this program? And this is a very tricky question sometimes to people because small business owners who are solo owners may not think that they're able to apply for this program, but the rule says that you can. Of course, there are certain guidelines that you have to follow in order to meet the rigors of applying for the program. But nonetheless, even if you are a sole owner of a business, solo practitioner, or have employees, you can apply for the small business, for the Paycheck Protection Program. And we're gonna talk about that. So in some of my previous webinars, we talked about some of the benefits from the SBA and things that you could do to make sure that your business continues to operate without incident, right? And part of being able to apply for some of these programs on the SBA is you had to be considered a small business. So what is a small business? A small business is a business that has fewer than 500 employees, or 500 or less, however you want to state it. If you are the only person in your business, you meet that quota. If you have employees and you have 400 people working for you, you meet that quota. If you have 502, you don't meet that threshold as a small business. All right. Now, what else is important for you to understand is, even if you are a nonprofit organization who's tax exempt, you will also be eligible to apply for the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, other guidelines that they put into place is you have to have been in operation on February 15, 2020. So if you have a new business that you started, and let's say you registered that business maybe, I don't know, January 1 of this year, but you weren't technically in operation, that may be a red herring there for you. So you're gonna have to show documentation. We'll get to that later, but you're gonna have to show that you were actually in operation, operating as an actual business, to be able to qualify for support under this particular loan program. In addition to that, you're gonna have to be able to show that you either had employees who you paid salaries, payroll taxes, or you had independent contractors who you paid according to particular 1099 guidelines, right? So moving back to this sole proprietorship or independent contractors, even if you work for yourself and you were in operation in your business or whatever field that you have, you qualify as long as you were in operation on February 15th, 2020. And like I said, you're gonna have to support documentation for this. Now, while we're on the issue of eligibility, there are ways that you can be found ineligible, and I think that's important to discuss from this law, because you don't want to spend the time going through completing this application, submitting all this documentation if you're not even eligible for the benefits in the first place. So what are some things that can make you ineligible? Well, number one, you can't be engaged in any activity that's illegal under federal, state, or local law. And that kind of brings into a question in my mind about cannabis, because cannabis is legal in some states, but it's still illegal federally. Not hemp, but cannabis is, okay? So you may be thrown off from receiving benefits as a small business owner if you have 50 employees, you run a cannabis dispensary, because it's still illegal federally. Now, that's just the thought that I have in my own mind. You're ineligible if you're a household employer. So a household employer are people who employ individuals to work in their home. So like a nanny or caregiver, housekeeper, those people are not eligible for this loan. And then also, an owner of 20% or more of any equity of the person applying for the business, and if they're incarcerated, on probation, on parole, or presently subject to an indictment, criminal information, which is basically a criminal complaint, arraignment, or any other means where formal charges can be brought against them, or they've been convicted of a felony within the last 5 years, you will be ineligible to apply for this benefit. Also, you or any of the business that's owned or controlled by you or any of your owners, you're going to have to provide information on whether you've ever received a direct or guaranteed loan from SBA or any other federal agency. And so they're going to look at that to determine whether you will be eligible for this particular program. All right. Now, what are payroll costs? Because this was one of my questions, because some people may think, okay, well, payroll costs is simply how much I pay an employee or how much I pay myself, but it's more than that. Okay, and we're going to also talk about how do you calculate the payroll cost. So I think a good move right now is let's talk about businesses with employees and businesses with independent contractors and solo owners. And then we'll talk about all the payroll costs that go into that calculation, okay? So how do I calculate my payroll costs under this particular program if I have employees or if I'm just a solo business owner, all right? So, and the Act is very good in explaining how to break down these numbers and these calculations. Technically, there are 5 steps that you will need to go through to adequately calculate what your maximum amount of potential loan could be, all right? Now, if you are someone who have an employee, you are going to calculate, of course, your compensation to your employees, any cash tips if you give them tips or something equivalent to that, payments for vacation, parent or family medical leave, sick leave, employment benefits like health insurance, state and local taxes that may be assessed on the payroll costs. And there are some other things that we're going to get into that. But basically, we call all those things wage and benefits, wage and benefit costs. All right. Now, I want to get to these steps because I want to tell you exactly how that works. Okay. So this is how you calculate the maximum amount of your loan under the Paycheck Protection Program. So step 1, you got to stay with me here. You're going to have to aggregate your payroll costs for 12 months. Okay, so right now we're only talking about businesses with employees. So if you aggregate your payroll costs for 12 months for employees, where your principal place of business, it has to also be here in the United States, that's going to be your step 1. So you're going to have your total number of what your payroll cost is. Step 2, you're going to subtract compensation paid to employees that are over $100,000, okay? And that's also any amounts paid to independent contractors or sole proprietors that are in excess of $100,000 per year. That's step 2. So we've already got our average, and we're going to subtract that. Step 3, you're going to calculate your average monthly payroll cost, and then you're going to divide that by step 2. Okay? So step 1, we've aggregated our payroll costs. Step 2, we're going to subtract any compensation that's over $100,000 that was paid, right? And then step 3, we're going to divide that number in step 2 by 12 months, which is a year, okay? Step 4, we're going to multiply the average monthly payroll costs by 2.5. And soon I'm going to get down and give you some numbers to break it out for you and show you how that works. Okay, so that's step 4. We multiply by 2.5. Now, if you've received an economic injury disaster loan within the time frame where those were allowed, that's between January 31st of this year and April 3rd of this year, you're going to add any outstanding amount on that loan minus any advance that you may have received from that program, okay? Because that amount does not have to be repaid. Okay, that's gonna give you your allowable amount that you can receive from the PPP. Okay, so you're gonna have your monthly payroll costs. You're gonna know what that is because you've done all of the calculations and the averaging for that. And when you multiply by the 2.5, of course, adding in any outstanding amount for the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, as well as subtracting any advance that you received, that's going to give you your maximum amount that you can receive under this particular program. So let's look at an example for payroll costs for independent contractors, because this is going to be a bit different, because as an independent contractor or a sole proprietor, you may not have employees. And so if you don't have employees, your calculation is going to be done just a bit differently. Okay, so let's say you were making $90,000. You made $90,000 in the previous year, right? But this $90,000 is after all of your business expenses and liabilities have been paid. So your income as a sole proprietor, as an independent contractor, is everything you have left over after all of your other liabilities are paid. That's your income. That's step one. Step two would be zero because you don't have employee compensation that you paid out, all right? So then we'll go to step three. Step three, you'll be calculating your average payroll and dividing that by a year, so 12 months. So you still have the amount that you received in step one, which would be $90,000. You're gonna divide that by 12, and that will leave $7,500, okay? And that will be your average monthly payroll cost to yourself, to your business as an independent contractor or self-employed person. Step four, you have to take that number, which would have been $7,500, and divide that by 2.5. So that brings us to $18,750. In step five, if you didn't receive an EIDL in that time frame that I spoke about, then that will remain at zero also. And so your total would be $18,750. So your monthly payroll cost would show you that it's $7,500, but your maximum amount of the loan that you can receive is $18,750. Okay? All right. Now, I want to move into what are the payroll costs that I can use in my calculations. So if you notice something I said before, your payroll cost is going to be more than just paying what you pay to employees or what you received yourself, what you received as an independent contractor or a sole proprietor business or a sole business owner, okay? So under the Act, what qualifies as payroll costs? So of course, we have compensation to employees. That's if you have a business that has employees, and that compensation is in the form of salary, wages, commissions, or similar compensation, cash tips, or the equivalent. And that's of course based upon employer records of past tips. In the absence of such records, then they would use a reasonable good faith employer estimate of such tips, or whatever that would be. That would be payment for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance of separation or dismissal, payment for the provision of employee benefits, which would be group health coverage, insurance premiums, retirement, payment to state and local taxes assessed on compensation to employees or for independent contractors or sole proprietor. Wages, commissions, income, or net earnings for the self-employment or similar compensation, okay? So if you're by yourself, it's okay. You are included in this group of people who can be eligible for the benefits under PPP. Okay. Now, it is extremely essential, you all, that you are prepared to provide adequate documentation to support your application. When you submit your application over to the SBA, you are going to want to make sure that you already have your ducks in a row so that you're not missing precious time, because like I said, the window is very narrow in terms of when you can apply for this program, and it's going to be first come, first serve. I mean, it is what it is. So some of the supporting documents that you may have to provide is, what are your payroll processor records looking like? So you may want to pull that off. Payroll tax filing, so if you paid on that, any Form 1099s, miscellaneous that you filed or received as an independent contractor would be good to help to show what your income is, and of course, loss of income. Bank records may be necessary. Now, I do want to just inform you, depending on the loan servicer that's coming in under the SBA to service this particular loan for you, they may have different requirements that they want you to meet in order to provide you with this loan. They may have different time frame of the information that they want to see. So for example, the interim final rule is saying that aggregate payroll costs should be received from the last 12 months. Okay, and so presumably we're talking about April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020. But if you have a loan servicer who says, hey, no, I want to see maybe payroll from January last year to current. So just make sure that you have all of your information and your ducks in a row, because like I said, you don't want to waste time looking and preparing for documents when you just want to be able to have that information ready, handy, and able to just go out. If you do your own accounting or anything, make sure you already have your profit and loss statements. If you've already filed taxes, cool. Make sure you have that in one place and put that information together so that you can provide the support that you need for your application. Like I stated, there's a very short, narrow window, and if you need this benefit, it's imperative that you jump on it ASAP. I did see somewhere that the time frame for independent contractors or self-employed workers, I think they have to wait until April 10th, but folks with employees, you can file right away. Get your application out there. You can go to the SBA website and search for the Paycheck Protection Program. That application is online. If you can't find it, you can shoot me an email and I can send you over that information. So you guys can go ahead and get your applications prepared and sent out while funds are lasting, okay? So if you have any questions, like I said, send me an email at sdebarros@sldebarros.com. You can follow me on all of the social media networks. If there's a program that you want to see or want information on, send me an email with that. Maybe I can bring that webinar for you to further educate you. And if you guys have any particular questions in regards to eligibility of the PPP that we've discussed here today, or any other questions, feel free to reach out and let's connect and see how we can help each other in these times. Again, my name is Sylvania DeBarros. It was a pleasure bringing this webinar to you today. I hope that you stay tuned, and I can't wait to connect with you again in the digital world. Have a great day.